Start learning AI because technology always wins. Technology beats presidents, trade wars, pharaohs, pyramids, the Roman Empire, you name it. It's always technology that beats empires. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Goldcasting podcast. Today we are going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence if you like, and why we love to hate it. And we want to give our perspective on it and give you some hints and how you can actually use this in your daily work. And before starting, you might wonder, okay, I mean, these guys are metallurgists, they're not AI experts. That's absolutely true, but we are techies. And we like to play around, especially Fabian. And we're using AI, and a lot of people around us are using AI. And we have taken our first, I would say, steps the last year with different kind of apps. So again, dear gentlemen and ladies, we're not any dinosaurs here who hates AI because it's new. But we would like to talk about it because it could show something that the foundry industry has ignored for decades. But there's still some room for improvement or things to avoid, if you like. So why do we hate it? Fabian, would you give your first sense on it?
Absolutely. So what we hate about the AI is not the AI itself. Let's look at our current situation. Everybody talks about, we have to implement AI to get more efficiency and productivity, lower energy costs and whatnot. But the biggest problem of our industry that we are facing at the moment is a lack of customers and a lack of volume. So the focus is on new business development. And then I slipped into the role of an engineer who has a welded construction, does 30 to 50,000 pieces a year of that weld construction, is looking to a way to substitute it because in that high volume, it gets very expensive to weld these many parts. So what is the way to do? Because he's a welding engineer, not a foundry engineer. Let's use an LLM. I started using Google Gemini, and then he went into, hey, I have that weld construction and I'm looking to find a way to turn it into a casting, what methods are out there and what can be done. Then I got some questions back. Yeah, good idea. What is the volume? What is the size? What are the properties that you need for your part? Then I answered to the size. I made it that it fits a typical mid-size high-pressure die casting machine, and talked a bit about properties that I need a bit of strength and need a bit of elongation. Nothing crazy, and it's aluminum. Okay. Then it did the thing, got in research mode, and got me a table listing conventional high-pressure die casting. It listed vacuum high-pressure die casting. It listed sand casting, and it listed low-pressure die casting. And then the most shocking point comes now, because it said conventional high-pressure die casting, that's not for you because it has brittle alloys, porosity, not weldable, not heat treatable. Then there's the vacuum high-pressure die casting. That is the gold standard. That's expensive. That's complex. Not many people can do that. Then that's sand casting. Okay, you need probably higher wall thickness, but you can cast these things, also low volumes, doing quite well, and you need a heat treatment to get to good ductility. Then you have low pressure die casting, and says, okay, that combines the advantages of sand casting with the advantages of a high productivity, so go for low pressure die casting. Then I repeated the same thing with Copilot and ChatGPT, and they came to the same conclusion. High pressure die casting, you cannot use it for anything. Because brittle, porosity, not weldable, not heat treatable. And you know it, I know it, everybody's listening to us knows it, that high pressure die casting is a perfect good process to produce porosity-free, heat treatable, weldable castings without ease. And that is what we hate about AI, that it has no clue about the foundry industry. And that is not the fault of the AI, that's a bit the fault of the foundry industry not giving enough context and information about that, because the AI didn't have any idea of the difference of vacuum-supported high-pressure die casting and vacuum high-pressure die casting. Two different costs. Also that today, or for the last 20 years, vacuum-assisted high-pressure die casting with ductile alloys.
De facto standard.
Yeah, exactly. That is not a gold standard and something exotic. That's basically what everybody runs. But the AI is trained on the available material, and most of that is university books written in the 1970s. And in that time, that was true, but it's not true today. But the data they have available still says it, because what we're lacking in the foundry is marketing. There's no material out there publicly available. Therefore, the AI doesn't screen it, doesn't train on it, and therefore you stick with the knowledge of the 1970s. And for that hypothetical welding engineer, high-pressure die casting is died forever.
Yeah. Not so impressing, maybe, and we can laugh a little bit, but it's scaring people away from our industry, right? You're looking for something. You're a designer. You're sitting on something exciting that could be your next market if you're a foundry. And then this guy is typing this in because people want to have the information. And there you go. You scared him away. He will continue to weld.
That's one customer lost. And the rest, if there's one, there are many, many more.
Yeah.
But you have your own experiences, Staffan, didn't you?
Yeah, but I come from a little bit different angle, you know. And in my line of work, it's very interesting to see what's happening in my business. And I wanted to test how reliable are these models. And I used Gemini. I have a pretty nice subscription, because we'll come to that later, but you get what you pay for. But I also run something called OpenClaw, that is believed to be, according to experts, a little bit better in search and compiling and making conclusions. So, what has happened in the semi-solid arena the last 6 months? Why do I ask this? Because I know what is being written. I know the white papers, I know the presentations from Eurogas, I know articles, I know things, you know. And what comes out is super thin. So when I did it, and I did it with two different apps, and I rephrased myself a couple of times and tried to compile this into a decent 1 or 2 pager. And yeah, it was the common gossip that has been written somewhere, but not the articles I was looking for. So even if you push this button deep search or deep research, it doesn't work that way. I asked the question because I could control the content. Then I did many more. I checked the die-casting machine manufacturing businesses, for example. I mean, how many press releases aren't there when there is a big machine sold somewhere from Bühler, Ida, HCN, etc.? Same thing. So, okay, we're sitting here. We hear about AI. Everybody talks about AI. We see a program and people becoming millionaires. Let's try to actually dive into it a little bit more before asking ourselves how to use this, okay? So, if I understand right, and my son is actually a computer scientist, and there are 2 areas, you can say, to make this like a metallurgist. You have something that is very, very interesting, which we always are using as an advanced Google, which is the AI based on big language models. And this is when you use the Gemini, for example. You're searching information, you want them to compile it into a nice article or something. You might also ask for, please give me a contract for a trade agreement with a Korean company or something. And then you get it, and you can also get the hints of how to behave in a Korean conference room when you debate it and discuss it. That is one thing. And then you have the other one, which is machine learning, actually, not AI. Generative AI, it's called. And that is when the machine is learning itself based on a specific data volume or information, which is super interesting. That one we will have regardless if we like it or not, because it's coming in pretty much of process equipment, optimization equipment, and so forth, because it learns from the behavior in the past, and it can actually predict decently what will happen within 24 hours, 1 week, 1 month, one year, depending on the industry. So you have 2 types.
Depending on the input parameter, that is key.
Yeah,
especially when the foundry guys go, we have so many data from our machines. Yeah, but do you have the right data to make predictions? Just because you have a sensor there doesn't mean that sensor has a relation to what the outcome is. And there is probably the need for having the right sensor and data first.
Absolutely, but I can tell you one thing. If in some industries, if you actually have the day of the week as one of the parameters, you actually get surprises sometimes that start up problems and others. But I think what we should focus in this episode is the thing we call AI, meaning information search, trying to compile reports and stuff. So here comes some of our findings based on the large language models. And here comes the first big important topic. You get what you're asking for. Let it sink in.
Yeah, but it's also nothing new with every other process. Depending on the quality of inputs, you're getting an output. And if you have zero information that the model has, so there has been the previous inputs, not all the content will be fed in from you, the model has some data as well. And then when you combine this knowledge, what you put in, what the model already has, then you get an output. But if the model is basically naked in knowledge and you don't provide enough information, you're getting basically bullshit out.
Mm-hmm. But in a nice format. So you get a little bit fooled. You get a little bit courted, I would say.
Absolutely. Right? It doesn't do many blatantly wrong things. But if you know what you're reading and you're hopefully an expert in that, what you let the machine do, then you see these small inconsistencies, that is wrong in one specific case, but for all the other cases, that is blatantly wrong. And these are the small things where you can really see also when you see a lot of posts about the topic and then, someone said, let's do a post about alloys, and you read through it, it's okay, that's wrong, that's a special effect for a certain alloy. And then because the AI doesn't know how to order that and how to evaluate certain things. Because it finds a paper about a specific effect and then it's cited a lot of times because it was a new thing that was discovered, but it doesn't really apply to all the alloys that have a similar composition and a similar process.
But I would say, now we jump in a little bit into this with daily use. I mean, if you take before, you Googled around, you had a customer visit, for example. You Googled and then you find 5-6 different spots. And at least I actually did a Word document and print screen and stuff. And then I read it for my colleagues. And okay, now you know what, I don't know, ABB, ZF, Ericsson, whoever is about, okay? If you just need that quick and dirty report with some insights, then it's perfect. Then it's great. Yep. If you need that contract to be lined up for a trade agreement with an agent in some country, perfect. I mean, it even points out the VATs in different countries. Or look out for the tariffs, who is going to pay the tariffs and things like it. So,
and also what it does really well is then saying, hey, but watch out. Usually ways, because how you can go around such contracts is in that way. You can add these clauses that make it secure for you, and then also in negotiation, I added these points. You can get rid of them. That doesn't have an impact on the outcome and things like that. So that's working really well.
Yeah, which tells you there's a lot of legal bullshit on the internet that they can learn from.
I hope it's the right thing that it learns, because
because I would say like this, I probably would like to filter this through with a lawyer anyway if to make that contract. So the problem is that instead of paying 200 euros per 30 minutes before, you probably have to pay 800 euros for those 30 minutes because you're taking away a couple of hours from his job. But he's probably using AI anyway inside if there's a big law firm.
But hopefully they have a better database of real laws.
Yeah. And understanding markets on top level. Perfect. But you will not get the user stuff. You don't get the bankruptcies. Maybe you get a CEO change somewhere if it's big enough to end up in a newspaper in a good way. But that is where you find
that's also what the AI picks up. So when you have a usual website and you put stuff on there, usually an AI doesn't pick that up. They are going for living content, something like blog posts on your website, social media content, Reddit forums, and things like that, where actual people are in commenting, sharing insights. This is things the AI picks up. It doesn't really pick up your website. It only does that when you're specifically asking for content on the website. Otherwise, it doesn't care. It might not even exist. But as in our industry, we have so many things that are under heavy NDAs. Never put anything that isn't under an NDA, a drawing, some brief notes, some specification sheets into a public LLM. Because what you're prompting today is next week's training data.
Yes.
You provided the information that should be kept secret to the world now.
And imagine that I'm just learning something called web coding. And if you want to keep track of your competition, you can let that sucker search every week to just see if someone made that mistake Fabian is referring to. So all of a sudden it can say, ping, in my inbox. Someone posted a drawing from company X. You see my point? Now we're getting to the advanced section because and this was a perfect intro because now I want to talk with something.
Yeah, we haven't heard much about these things, but it happened, for example, to Red Bull that they planned a secret event and then everybody knew about it because ChatGPT told the world about that event.
Yeah. And I know a company, they were publishing the yearly reports and they were written in a certain form as download. And someone had an AI pinging the system and changing 2025 to 2026 and just trying the dates. And boom, had a PDF of the new of the P&L of an official company 1 week ahead of the stock market.
That is inside information. Yeah, these things happen.
It's close to hacking. But here comes my point, ladies and gentlemen. Why I'm talking about this now and why we're going this deep and now why are we going to lose ourselves in the shadows of different apps and stuff? Because it is about money. And here it comes. You have to pay to get good AI functionality. End of story. If you look at the big ones, I mean, you have different subscriptions and it gives you some kind of credits and coins and you can use it for searches and then you search up it and then you pay a little bit more because you get very, very curious about the question you're thinking about and examining. And this you probably have to do. And if you want the more advanced stuff, like the OpenClaw, for example, that you can combine a lot of things with, all of a sudden you actually have to pay. It's like a €5 here and a €10 there, and then all of a sudden you actually pay a couple of €100 each year for it, because then you get not Rolls Royce, but you get a more functional vehicle to move around the internet, right? That is not super strange. But here comes my second point. You can pay in money, you can pay in time, was something my mother always said. Sometimes she was really smart. And what she meant by that is that, yeah, but if you learn something, you spend a lot of time, but then you don't need to pay that much for someone else to do it. Make perfect sense. And this is exactly what's happening with the AI, because they are not that, all of them, not that super friendly using. You have to learn how to ask. You have to learn how to combine things. You have to learn what to look out for. You have to invest a lot of time, I would say. I have not stumbled across any application that is self-flying.
No, because everybody has its own preferences, has their own way of talking, and you have to train is the wrong word, but it actually means train that system, that it knows how you feel, how you do, how you think, how you speak, that it comes out in a way that works for you, and to have that consistency. And when we're talking about these NDA written documents, then you cannot use any subscription service. Then you are in the thing that you have to build your own AI server sitting in your data center, sitting in your cellar and running your own models, where you have 100% control on the model, on the data, on the output, because it's your system. And that is something where you really need to put it up and get that running. Then you also not paying a subscription, because most of these LLM models are free to download. But the maintenance, the software development, that thing comes all on top, and also the energy costs.
Yeah, but if you think that sounds paranoid, think for a while. It's your data. You guess a world revolutionary idea, for example. I mean, I discussed this with a guy working computing safety, not the firewall that we all buy and get cheated with, with the spam emails and all that, and downloaded documents that make our IT guy go crazy. He's working real safety, to try to kill the hackers. And he said 10 years, 5 years from now, back in time, we were laughing about, this old lady with a Post-it note with a password. They don't laugh anymore. So when it comes to real safe stuff, I mean, we're back now with the USB machine locks and stuff. It has actually made a parabellum here, that everybody, you do it with two-step authentication and yada, 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 and everything, is so swift, and you just look into a camera and it reads your eye or whatever program or stuff you're talking about. But we're actually getting back to the idea of having hardware locks and Post-it notes and all that. So the step for a smaller company to invest in this, to have your own server hall in your cellar with a bunch of computers, not that freakishly stupid, I would say.
No, and especially fun thing, I saw it last time. We all know the 3.25-inch floppy disks.
Yeah.
There was one system 5.25-inch before that.
Yes.
And the prices of these systems skyrocketed last year because no one can read them. Yeah. And if you want to have your safest files, for example, like the crypto key to your Bitcoin wallet, people put that on these large 20-year-old drives because no one else can read them except you.
Fun thing, have to make a remark, my dear friend. Did you remember the 3-inch?
Yes.
In my school, we used the 5-inch daily. So thank you very much for pointing out the age difference here. But thank you.
Yeah, it was basically just to install a bit of the operating system. Everything else was done via CD. So
okay, you can take the foot out of your mouth now. It's okay. It's okay. I forgive you. You know, when I started with computers, we had one of the first version of Excel. It was a black screen and the lines were orange. Then we had a new version. Then the lines were green. And it was still crashed if you had too many calculations for each column. Even if you just had 10 lines, then the computer go like, syntax error. That is how old I am.
Yeah, these things are different now. But anyway, the things coming back, because when you see it in the last years, everything was moving. Let's move to the cloud. Let's move to the cloud.
Yeah.
And now
put it in China.
Yeah, and now the cloud is just someone else's computer. So now people are getting, what is if, for example, the US tech conglomerate saying, we're shutting out that country, then you have a problem. So now everything is moving back to self-hosted.
Yeah, but
and
I mean,
that's the same with data. It's the same with intelligence, with AI. All goes the same direction.
I think this. How should I put it? Information liberation or free use of everyone's intel and info. I think it has peaked. Actually, I do think so. I do feel like that. But anyway, we kind of derail a little bit. I'm saying that, okay, you have to pay something to get good subscription and stuff. Having that makes you probably play around more. When you are playing around more, you will start to feel like, this Gemini thing, for example, I guess this is the starter kit. It's really good, according to my friends nowadays. Half a year ago, it wasn't. That tells you something. And the interesting thing is then, ideas start to grow in your head. Can I do this, and that? And the short answer to pretty much everything is, yes, you can. Okay, this is the scary part. How do you get to doing this, and that? Well, then you start to invest your time. I know that you have some brilliant solutions for all this content and the catalog of the content, the casting campus, for example. Super easy searchable, and it took you a weekend or something. But if you don't have that weekend, how the F are you going to do a thing? So here comes the thing that money is one thing. You invest 50 euros a month for having a bunch of tools, but you need to work them and you need to really, really go down and start to understand, okay, what are the apps that I can use around my AI? Because that is like, how should I put it? If you thought Google was fast, if you're an old guy like me, then you have Google on crack. Really, because then you start to have these conclusions. You can start to harvest information in a total different way. You can pinpoint certain information streams to listen into, and you can do so many things. And you can get it compiled in a very decent way. But it comes with a cost of time and money. And that is the question for the Foundry industry. Do we have time and money? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. And we've seen it with so many things. That, for example, if you're buying a new foundry, you want to build it up, new machine, and sure, you can spend weeks, months learning how to do it, and then after 3 months, you're like, okay, the tool, how we designed it is totally crap. Let's buy a new one and then test it, and you see how it's going. That is something you can do, but who's paying for it? It's way cheaper to get support from day one. Yes, support isn't cheap, but it's way cheaper and way faster. And I think currently with the machine park getting less and less work that you can live off, time is something you don't have.
No, it's the same for everybody. But anyway, okay, so we have said you have to pay in hours, you have to pay in money. There's a great tool out there, and you feel like, yeah, Monday morning, I'm going to go into my boss, I'm going to say that I'm going to run AI on my work, and I'm going to do X. What is X? I bet you, most of you will end up thinking, marketing. Because we listen to Fabian, who think marketing is a good thing. We need more customers, right? Pretty easy?
Pretty easy and super easy to spot that you're doing that. Because let's face it, marketing is a delicate topic because you want to persuade people, give them information, educate them about a certain topic. In our case, it's casting is great. Let's go into that. However, you are one that have no clue about marketing. Then you're tasking an AI who has no clue about the foundry industry to do marketing for something he doesn't know. So Gordon Ramsay would call that an idiot sandwich that you're building because you have a lot of intelligence, but the intelligence has no idea what it should do and just hallucinates or even hallucinates, gives you beautiful text to read in the first instance. Say, oh boy, cool. But then, if you're going a bit deeper, you see that there are factual errors. You see that certain style these AIs use, you can spot them. And the platforms, we have so much AI slop on them. They really go hard against these just AI written stuff. And also, what kind of a company are you? Are you the one that just copy pastes from a platform? Are you the one that just downloads the parts, casts them, and does no thinking along the way? No. You are a company with an identity. You stand for something. That is what makes you and what still gives you the standing that you have in the industry. And you have to transmit that. And that is something that only a human can do. That has to be authentic. That has to be you. And as we've seen it in the beginning, the AI has no clue who you are. How can they be you? Therefore, that's something you have to do yourself. And yes, it works perfectly. If you put out a lot of marketing content, the AI will pick up on that. So for example, if I'm doing a research on reocasting stuff, a lot of the time I find my own stuff coming up.
I did too. There was a lot of casting campus out there. You've been a busy bee. But it tells you something that if you feed the internet with the information you want to get around, you actually get other people using AI in that not so smart way. For this, supplier meeting, they type in your company and then they get what AI actually is finding on that shallow level.
Or look at the whole systems that the SAP systems, the whatever purchasing system they use, they all have an AI tool that tells them a bit about their supplier and then things pop up there. And that is integrated everywhere. So the question is, don't use AI for marketing? No, it's also no. It's like with everything else. AI is a tool that can help you get to a conclusion faster, but you have to know what to do first. And if you're starting out from zero, probably it's best if you get help from someone that knows what to do. It's way faster. You get a system that works. And also that is something that has been found by several studies. The MIT did a big search from US companies who claimed AI on their shareholder letters. And then they asked a few years later, so hey, how did it go? And they've seen that around 80% of these projects failed. That is quite a lot. Most of them were just too ambitious and too much combined information that wasn't available and things like that. But the 20% that have been successful, and from that 20% around 60% are still inactive in use and further developed. And the key thing to all of them is that the level, when you see the managerial level from entry level to top management in a company, the tasks the AI was doing was basically internal level work, doing tedious manual jobs, collecting, reorganizing information, and always after every step there was a human in control of the situation, how to move forward. And these were projects that gained a massive efficiency boost for the whole organization and were used every day by everyone. And because these transformation processes, like in every change management thing, doesn't go overnight. That needs an adaptation process. And that is what the study basically found.
Yeah, but I see this. I'm going to brag a little bit. I'm Swedish. Sweden, we had a pretty long tradition of embracing, internet and programming and stuff. And we're not Silicon Valley, but in some ways we stick out. And when I discuss with my friends, especially the ones from big companies, they have started with the simple things, getting the minutes of meeting, for example. From Teams meeting, they have identified, okay, where are employees making the most hours for low level thinking, basically. I mean, writing a transcript is low level thinking. You take your notes and then you organize it, and then you have a minute meeting. Small codes in computing systems, very often generated with an AI application. For example, he test runs it 250,000 times over the weekend or something, and then it's bug-free on Monday, and you can, not that stupid. So the things that doesn't require too much of thinking, but still takes a lot of hours. And if you have 5,000 employees, I mean, how many minutes of meetings are written every day? You see my point? So I think this is a very Swedish way. We're not dreaming of that robot dog that fixes a coffee, does the power presentation for the CEO, and then cleans the car, and then in the same time outlines a long-term strategy for the company group. No, it writes minutes of meetings and probably controls the coffee brewer too. But anyway, so we start kind of bottom up, I think. I think this is generic in Sweden.
Yeah, but you're also seeing the totally opposite trend, that when you're talking, especially when you're seeing EU-funded projects that especially the German foundry associations are driving. These are projects, the whole foundry production connected with interconnection, changing displays for certain employees and things like that. So far beyond what an easy start is, and so hard to replicate, because there's a lot of energy, a lot of money spent on things. And if you cannot transfer that from one foundry to another, you don't get, as a foundry nation, a big advantage from these projects, because that's so specific to that one company that there's not really much to transfer, because you have to basically start from ground zero, because new company, new layout, new data streams.
Different culture.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the culture of learning, you have the culture of obedience and following, you have the culture of, I don't know, customer orientation. You have always different cultures. And depending on your culture, you need probably a slightly different approach. I think this is, the older I get, the more important I think this is.
And I think the most important thing for AI is to start there where you have the bottleneck, where you have the biggest issue, because you can find application everywhere, but you always have these 1 or 2, 3 burning issues, and trying to help you solving the easy tasks in that complex thing. That is where the AI has the biggest value proposition.
Yeah, but use it as a servant. Treat the AI more like an intern with a narrow task than a decision maker. Compile things. Please present this for me. Things like that.
Organize, sort, and then you have a great success with AI. And again, we love it, but we hate how the foundry industry is represented on there. So the only thing that we can do now at this point is say, dear foundry industry, dear foundries, please start to produce marketing, show what you can do, because we all know that we can do amazing things, but who cares if no one sees them? So please, please, please start sharing what you do.
And now my final words on this topic is, do as Fabian say, but start learning AI, because technology always wins. Technology beats presidents, trade wars, pharaohs, pyramids, the Roman Empire, you name it. It's always technology that beats empires. And I got 10 years left before vacation, before retirement, maybe 15, depending on the status of our country. And I know I'm not super happy every time I open my AI apps, and dive into something. But I know that I have to stay tuned to this, because otherwise I would be that dinosaur sitting in a corner swearing. I don't want to be that guy. And one of my friends working a big software company, well, he got like 12,000 employees or something. And he says 3 years ago, when he used AI, he kept quiet about it because it was considering a little bit like cheating, Today, if you don't use AI, you're considered stupid.
Yeah, you've seen it also with a lot of programmers when you talk to Silicon Valley people in podcasts. They say if you have someone with a 300, 400, 500,000 US dollar yearly salary, if they're not using $300,000 worth of token every year, that's a worthless employee.
Yeah, because he's not out there. He's not in the stream of technology.
Exactly. What they are doing is exactly that. They use that person to say, okay, we pay you $500,000 a year, so do the $500,000 per year jobs and give all the smaller jobs to the AI.
Yeah, but then you're talking about the Formula One. But I mean, you can talk about Formula One. It's impressive, but sometimes you need a tractor that just works 365 days a year. If you are a farmer, I think we in the foundry industry we need to develop that tractor, because you can bet one thing: it will contain a lot of AI very soon.
I think the easiest thing is something like a RAG system, a retrieval augmented generation system, where you put all the information that you have in, and then instead of training an AI model on certain things that constantly change, so you have basically a data pool, and then the model grabs whatever is needed from a database and gives you an answer based on a lot of information that's highly specific to your use case, to your company, with not public data. Again, in that case, please have your own system at home to do that.
The seller with one key.
Exactly. And then you can really get the things out. And especially, I think that is super cool for quality management systems. You don't have to check 25 different specifications, because you can just ask the system, and especially if you're not doing it every day, you ask them, hey, we have that customer who looks for that alloy with that specification. What do we have to look for? And then it says this specification here, blah, 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 blah. Super cool, super complex task to go through everything, and very expensive if you miss one. But here, that's a big advantage. Or like for me, to get an overview, where's my content, how is it performing? Super easy to set up. And most of the programming did the AI do, not me. I just told the AI what to do.
That's the beauty of it. But then you have come a far way. So, ladies and gentlemen, the conclusion is, number one, key thing, treat the AI more like an intern with a narrow task than a decision maker. Point number two, start to get into the stream. Number three, invest time. Maybe some money, but mostly time. And number four, listen to Fabian, because if you want to have use of this, create a fenced network where your data is safe, and use the AI on your data, because then all of a sudden you will get a hell of a lot more quality in your usage of AI when it comes to your company. And number five, never, ever, ever, never, ever use it for marketing day one. Use human beings for marketing and get your uniqueness out there. Then you can start to use AI for certain things around the marketing and your business trips and who to meet and all that. Finally, if you think we are bullshitting now, sit down, log in to one of these apps, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, and search your own company. Then take a coffee and read what it's writing for you, and then start to reflect. That is the first lesson of AI. If you haven't done anything yet, do that.
And the second lesson for AI is do the opposite way. Go in the role that you are someone that's looking for casting, and try to get the AI to recommend your company.
Yeah.
And tell us especially how the outcome was.
Yes.
We're looking forward to that in the comments.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to shoot us a question or a message or whatever if you think we should take up some other aspects, and especially around this with AI. I guess there's a lot of questions around it, and we will try to answer. Communication is king, you know. And looking forward to see you next time. Sayonara.
See you in the next podcast. Bye.